The 10 most famous sculptures in the world. In this video, we'll explore some of the most iconic and recognizable sculptural masterpieces that have left an indelible mark on art history. From colossal monuments to delicate miniature sculptures, we'll dive into the fascinating world of sculpture and discover the skill and genius behind each of these creations. Number 10. The Rondanini Pieta. The sculpture, the Rondanini Pieta, is one of the last masterpieces of the renowned Italian Renaissance artist, Michelangelo. It was created during the last years of his life, between 1552 and 1564, and is considered one of his most introspective and moving works. The Rondanini Pieta depicts the biblical scene of the Virgin Mary holding the body of Jesus Christ after her crucifixion. Unlike other famous works by Michelangelo, this sculpture is characterized by its more abstract style and is sculpted from a single piece of marble. What distinguishes the Rondanini Pieta from previous depictions of the Pieta that Michelangelo made before, such as the famous sculpture in St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican, is its focus on human frailty and vulnerability. Mary and Jesus are represented in a more ethereal and diffuse way, with soft and less defined forms. This unfinished sculpture reflects Michelangelo's late style, in which he sought to capture the spiritual essence of his subjects rather than focus on anatomical perfection. The work conveys a sense of tranquility and transcendence, conveying the devotion and compassion of the Virgin Mary towards her Son. Number 9. The Discus Thrower. The Discus Thrower is a famous sculpture from ancient Greece that represents an athlete throwing a discus. It was created by the Greek sculptor Myron in the 5th century BC, and is considered one of the masterpieces of classical art. The sculpture shows a moment of great tension and physical vigor. The athlete is in a dynamic posture, with his body tense and his muscles clearly defined. The artist manages to capture the beauty and harmony of the human body in motion. The discus thrower is known for his exceptional sculptural technique. Myron was able to accurately depict the anatomical details of the body, as well as the tension and energy in each muscle. The sculpture displays great skill in depicting the human form and in capturing action in art. Myron's original work was lost over time, but copies and later versions are known to have survived. These reproductions allow us to appreciate the greatness of the sculpture and its impact on later art. Number 8. The Terracotta Warriors. The Terracotta Warriors are an impressive collection of terracotta sculptures depicting an army of soldiers and horses, discovered in Shaanxi Province, China. These sculptures were created during the reign of Emperor Qin Shi Huang, who unified China and established the Qin dynasty in the 3rd century BC. The Terracotta Warriors collection was discovered in 1974 by a group of farmers who were digging a well. Since then, it has become one of the most important and famous archaeological finds in the world. The sculptures were buried together with Emperor Qin Shi Huang to protect him in the afterlife from him. It is estimated that there are more than 8,000 figures in total, including soldiers, officers, archers, war chariots, and horses. Each figure is unique and detailed, with different hairstyles, facial expressions, and weaponry. The sculptures show the high level of skill and artistry achieved by ancient Chinese craftsmen. The purpose of the Terracotta Warriors was to serve as the emperor's guards at his tomb and accompany him into the afterlife. Each figure was armed and strategically placed in battle formation, creating an impressive army. Although the sculptures were found in varying states of preservation, restoration and conservation efforts have been underway to protect this historic treasure. Number 7. The Moses. The Moses sculpture is a masterpiece created by the renowned Italian artist Michelangelo in the 16th century. The sculpture represents Moses, a biblical figure from the Old Testament, who is seated and with an imposing gaze. The sculpture is located in the tomb of Pope Julius II in St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. Michelangelo was commissioned to create this monumental piece for the tomb, and he worked on it for several years. The figure of Moses is sculpted in marble and shows a high level of detail and realism. Moses's pose is powerful, with his right hand holding the tablets of the law, while his left hand rests on his beard. Moses's face reflects an expression of contained anger, symbolizing his role as leader of the people of Israel and his relationship with God. One of the highlights of the sculpture is the play of light and shadow that Michelangelo achieves with his skill in carving marble. The folds of Moses's clothing and body muscles are meticulously sculpted, giving the work a sense of movement and life. Moses is considered one of the masterpieces of Renaissance sculpture and one of Michelangelo's most famous creations. Its imposing size and impressive level of detail make it an attraction for art lovers and tourists visiting St. Peter's Basilica. Number 6. The Victory of Samothrace. The Victory of Samothrace is a famous ancient Greek sculpture depicting the goddess Nike, the personification of victory, in the form of a winged figure. The sculpture was created around the year 190 BC and is currently in the Louvre Museum in Paris. The Victory of Samothrace is known for its incredible beauty and sense of dynamic movement. The statue was created to commemorate a major naval victory by the ancient Greeks and was originally placed on the Aegean island of Samothrace. The winged figure stands on the prow of a ship and appears to be floating in the air as it gently descends towards Earth. The sculpture is made of white marble and features a high level of detail in its fabric folds and outstretched wings. Although the statue's head has not been preserved, its absence does not diminish the grandeur and impressive presence of the figure. The Victory of Samothrace has been a source of inspiration for many artists over the centuries and is considered one of the masterpieces of Hellenistic sculpture. Its current location in the Louvre Museum allows visitors to appreciate its splendor and capture the majesty of ancient Greece. Number 5. The Thinker. The Thinker is a famous sculpture created by French sculptor Auguste Rodin in 1880. The work depicts a man seated on a rock, his head resting on his right hand as he reflects deeply. The sculpture has become one of the most recognizable icons of Western art. The Thinker, originally called The Poet, was conceived as part of a monumental gate called The Gates of Hell, which was intended to be a representation of Dante Alighieri's The Divine Comedy. However, the sculpture became so popular that Rodin decided to exhibit it as a separate work. The figure of the pensive man represents introspection, intellect, and the struggle of the human being to understand the world that surrounds him. His posture shows the tension and mental effort of deep thought. Although initially conceived as a representation of Dante, the character has become a universal symbol of contemplation and the creative process. The sculpture has been reproduced in various sizes and materials, and multiple copies exist in museums around the world. The original version of the Thinker is in the Rodin Museum in Paris, where it has become a very popular tourist attraction. Number 4. The Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty is one of the most iconic and recognized monuments in the world. Located on Liberty Island in New York Harbor, this impressive sculpture has been a symbol of freedom and democracy since its unveiling in 1886. The statue was a gift from the French people to the American people in commemoration of the centennial of the independence of the United States and as a gesture of friendship between the two nations. It was designed by the French sculptor Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi, and its internal structure was created by the engineer Gustave Eiffel, famous for designing the Eiffel Tower. The Statue of Liberty depicts Libertas, the Roman goddess of liberty, carrying a torch in her right hand and a tablet of law in her left. The torch symbolizes enlightenment and progress, while the law table represents the principles of democracy. At the feet of the statue is a broken chain, symbolizing liberation from oppression and slavery. With a total height of 93 meters, including the pedestal, the Statue of Liberty is an impressive work of art. Its construction required a great effort and cooperation between France and the United States. It was disassembled in France, transported by ship, and then assembled at its current location on the island. Number 3. The Pieta. The Pieta is a famous sculpture created by the renowned Italian artist Michelangelo. This masterpiece of Renaissance sculpture represents the image of the Virgin Mary holding in her arms the lifeless body of Jesus after her crucifixion. The sculpture is located in St. Peter's Basilica, in Vatican City. It was commissioned by the French Cardinal Jean de Bilhiers and completed in the year 1499. The Pieta is considered one of Michelangelo's most significant and moving creations. The sculpture shows the Virgin Mary as a young and serene figure, with an expression of sadness and pain on her face. Her body is carefully carved and shows great finesse in detail, from the folds of her clothing to her facial features. The body of Jesus lies in the arms of Mary. Her figure shows a softness and serenity that contrasts with the sufferings she has experienced. Despite the tragedy, the work radiates a sense of peace and resignation, conveying deep emotion. Michelangelo's technique and skill are appreciated in every aspect of the sculpture. The way in which the folds of the garments fall naturally and how the bodies intertwine reflect a deep mastery of the art of sculpture. Number 2. The David. The David is an iconic Renaissance sculpture created by the famous Italian artist Michelangelo. It is considered one of the most outstanding masterpieces in the history of Western art and is currently in the Accademia Gallery in Florence, Italy. The sculpture represents the biblical King David moments before facing the giant Goliath. Michelangelo created the figure of David in white marble between the years 1501 and 1504, when he was only 25 years old. The statue reaches a height of more than 5 meters and shows the young David in a serene but powerful position, in a pose known as a contrapposto. The sculpture exhibits extraordinary anatomical accuracy and lifelike detail, capturing the beauty of the human body at its finest. The attention to detail is evident in the well-defined muscles and visible veins in David's arms and legs, as well as his focused face and meticulously carved hair. In addition to his magnificent technical execution, the David is also considered a symbol of individual resistance and victory over adversity. The figure of the young hero, with his determined gaze and his courageous attitude, has come to represent the fight for freedom and the defense of ideals. Number 1. The Venus de Milo. The Venus de Milo is a famous sculpture from ancient Greece that represents the goddess of love and beauty, Aphrodite, known as Venus in Roman mythology. Created around the year 100 BC, this statue is one of the most recognized and admired treasures of classical art. The Venus de Milo was carved from white marble by an unknown sculptor on the island of Milos in the Aegean Sea. The statue shows a life-size female figure, approximately 2 meters tall. The most notable thing about this sculpture is that the figure lacks arms, which have been lost over the centuries. However, this absence has not diminished its visual impact or its beauty. The Venus de Milo is known for her graceful posture and serene facial expression. Her nude body shows an athletic and harmonious shape, and her clothing, which falls delicately on her hips and legs, adds a touch of grace and softness to the sculpture. Despite the lack of arms, the Venus de Milo remains a masterpiece showing balance and the perfection of classical proportions. This sculpture was discovered in 1820 by a peasant on the island of Milos and later acquired by the French government, which transferred it to the Louvre Museum in Paris, where it is currently located. Since then, the Venus de Milo has captivated millions of people around the world, becoming an iconic symbol of beauty in classical art. The Venus de Milo has influenced numerous artists and has been the subject of study and analysis by art and archaeology experts. His enigmatic smile and apparent eternity have sparked speculation about his origin and meaning, and he has been the subject of artistic and literary interpretations over the years.